Hi, so thanks for coming. Thank you for coming. And then I didn't know this room was a remote from the other two, so thanks for walking all the way here. So this is a quantum industry session, and what I found when I met with these two great scientists and the leaders in the field was we actually, three of us represent the current quantum industry pretty well. So, Rolls-Royce has a R&D team that focuses on the use case development, trying to use quantum computer for the company's value. Infineon is a big, can I say semiconducting company or manufacturing company?
Yes.
That also develops potentially could develop the quantum systems components. It's a part of the supply chain, but also can use a quantum computer for part of their processes. And as you know, IBM Quantum is a computer company, right? We provide computing services to all of you, and then also, of course, these two the leaders here. So I think, again, industry primary goal is to create a business, create a value, create a profit, right? And quantum computing is definitely a very promising tool to create a larger business in the future. We are still getting there, but I think this time it'll be very valuable to hear from these two, and then also I'd be happy to chip in myself where we are, because eventually the goal should be building the quantum industry. The quantum industry here is the industry that basically leverages the quantum computing to create the big business values. So where we are and what will be the immediate challenge for the progress, and then I guess I wanted to also understand what will be the next 10-year the plan. But how we are going to do this is again, I only have these three questions, very broad. And again, because I'm also interested in listening to these two guys, right? But after each questions, we will also, ask you to participate. Like any comments there? Do you want to add your ideas, or or ask you whether you guys have any questions to us? Does it sound good? Or
we even have two additional chairs.
Sorry? Oh.
We even have two additional chairs.
Oh yeah, that's right. If anyone want to jump in, right? So maybe I can start with a question of like maybe introduce yourself first, and then maybe describe a little bit of what you guys are planning to use quantum computer for, and what's the current status for your company, and then you see as a as a field. So should we Leigh or Sebastian? I don't know who.
You go first, Sebastian.
Okay. Thanks a lot. It is really a pleasure to be here. It's such a great conference, actually. And thanks a lot for making the way towards this remote room. So, Sebastian Luber, I'm coordinating quantum activities at Infineon. And for me, it has been very fascinating to listen to the talks regarding where are we currently, because you get two completely opposite impressions, right? If you listen to some talks, you think quantum is already there, we have quantum advantage, everything is done, so I don't understand why we are developing anything anymore. And on the other side, if you listen, for example, to the talk from Clemens Ucik today in the morning, he gives the other direction. It's still a huge way to go. And I can just echo that for our company, actually. So in a certain way, quantum is already there. So we are providing security solutions, for example, and just by the possibility that the future powerful quantum computer could be or will be able to break current encryption schemes, we are already adapting. So there are these new approaches also in the standardization from the NIST in the US. And last week I've been to an automotive cybersecurity forum with a lot of car companies. And it has been a big topic there. So to switch communication within a microcontroller, within the car, for example, from current encryption schemes to other algorithms which are supposed to be quantum safe in the future. So in this aspect, it's already there. On the other hand, of course, the current state of the art of hardware is very, very limited compared to what we need in order to solve industrial relevant problems, which we're also doing in the company. And therefore, We are doing a lot of development efforts. So actually in 3 technological approaches. We are doing this at Infineon, so in ion traps, in superconductors, and of course in semiconductors, as we are in semiconductors. Yeah, still some way to go, I would say. There's currently sufficiently performance systems to do toy models, to play around, to understand a bit better what is possible in principle with quantum. But yeah, I agree to some of the views of the morning session that we are still a few years out until we see a real advantage.
It sounds wonderful.
Okay, I'm Leigh from Rolls-Royce. You might have guessed that already. Just a little bit about myself. So this is my 36th year at Rolls-Royce, and sometime in the last century I did a PhD in computational fluid dynamics. I can say that now. And that's sort of been the backdrop to my sort of time at Rolls-Royce. I've had various roles. I've a lot in classical supercomputing, and I've got a foot in each camp. So when I speak about quantum computing, I upset the exascale community. When I speak about exascale, I upset the quantum community. So I have to be really careful what I say. So a big background in linear algebra, scaling, large calculations. The largest calculation we've done is got 30 billion unknowns, and we can run that in 6 hours on a supercomputer. So, we can do big stuff already. We don't need quantum computers to do big stuff. So your questions you asked were so hard. I had to make notes. So,
yeah, I have also cheat sheet here.
I'm an analog person. I'm still trying to escape the last century. So yeah, we're a small team. So we started our quantum journey probably around 2018. So I'm a fellow in computational sciences. So it sort of came to me to say, well, Leigh, what do we think about quantum computing, Leigh? And I sort of thought about it for about 3 years, and then COVID came along, and by the time COVID had ended, we had an answer. So there's 2 of us at the moment. We're a small team. Both with a background in classical supercomputing and some experience with quantum. Again, a sort of a personal view, but also the company view, because it's me that's leading it. Fault tolerant, we're sort of more or less committed to fault tolerant, but not exclusively. So I think of NISQ stuff as, NISQ is going to plateau at some point. When we do classical optimization, we talk about things like the cursor dimensionality. When you do an optimization, as problems get bigger, they scale with n squared, etc. And if you can get that cursor dimensionality onto the quantum computer, fantastic, that's what they're there for. If you leave it on the classical computer, it's going to catch you out, and that's the problem with NISQ. The cursor dimensionality has been left on the classical computer, where it's going to catch us out. So, and again, with my background in CFD, when we started off, I thought about what shall we do, and I thought, let's just do CFD, linear equations, because if we do that, then I'm interested in it, so it'll make progress. In terms of what we're doing, we've got a research project funded by Innovate UK in the UK. It's quite big. It's led by Universal Quantum, who are sort of ion trap manufacturer. They're a spin-out from Sussex University. So it's a full stack project. Universal Quantum plus their supply chain, vacuum manufacturers, etc. Then Riverline, who spoke yesterday about their error correction. So Riverline with their error correction and their operating system, and then the application work package. So I'm leading that on CFD algorithms. We're working with if you know the UK ecosystem, the STFC, Science and Technology Facilities Council, the NQCC fits under there. So we're using the Atos QLM machine. There's 2 of those in the UK. They will go up to 38 qubits. We haven't gone that far yet. So if you're doing fault-tolerant algorithms, you can only do that in emulation. So that's our main activity, and this is public record. So that's a £7.6 million program over 3 years, but the majority of that is going on the hardware. We've also got projects. I think most people, 2 out of the 3 are in the room. So classic, we've started, and again, there's some logic to what we're doing. So we're doing sort of HHL algorithm and the classic spoke about that yesterday. That's the sort of the go-to algorithm for linear equation solvers. If you understand classical linear algebra, it's dead simple to understand. Then the new kid on the block is quantum singular value transformation. Much less, it's much less clear how you go from QSVT to the inverse of a matrix, but you have phase angles, etc. So we're doing that with Xanadu in Canada. And then on the NISC side, we're working with Pascal, looking at sort of a NISC-based solver for for chaotic CFD equations, uncertainty quantification, polynomial chaos sort of stuff. So that's interesting. And internally, we're doing a little bit of work on the VQLS, the variational quantum linear solver. We're about to start a PhD with Strathclyde on time series and using quantum series. And yeah, my particular interest is hybrid classical quantum. Now that's different. A lot of the people that talked about hybrid classical quantum here have talked about doing the error correction on the classical supercomputer and doing that in parallel, which is all important. My interest is in algorithms. It was a short list, so I'll stop there.
Are we not working together? I thought IBM and Rolls-Royce says so. No,
we are
together.
We're trying.
Okay,
so So there's a again, it's a UK thing. So the Hartree Centre in the UK has got a program called HNCDI, which I've got.
Yes.
Yeah, you probably know. Mm-hmm. So we are in the process of doing a project with you guys through that, but we haven't started yet.
Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. That's, as long as you have a long list of hardware, then I didn't see the IBM. So, okay. So maybe I'll also, explain a little bit about where we are as a hardware vendor, a computer service provider. Because so right now we are giving a service through cloud. A lot of times, from a 20 plus systems, and people can access through, again, IBM Cloud to do the computation, and the system includes more like 127 qubit processors, and I think soon we are going to service a 433 qubit systems. I think what IBM quantum computing services is probably one of the state of art that you can get in the field. We have also 220 industries, companies, research labs, and universities working with us as a business partner. And we also have the dedicated systems that located in different countries, 7 different locations. We also deploy, the local computers so that, the particular local quantum ecosystems, has a dedicated usage. So again, that might be my point here is people start using the quantum computing services, even though that's a small scale systems. Those are mostly for research and development. However, the progress is going pretty fast. Because, again, last year we introduced the 127 qubit system, which is already being serviced to the customer. We are going to put the 433 qubit systems online soon for also the customer, and we are going to demonstrate 1,000 qubits end of this year. Through the Quantum Summit, you will hear about the news. But again, as these, our panelists said, we are still trying to figure out how we can get the quantum advantage, or how we can utilize these smaller scale systems. And again, IBM is also one of the pioneers to develop the quantum science, and especially one of the techniques that we've been developing and then being a pioneer is the error mitigation, which is not well known. I mean, I don't think so. Error correction, everyone heard about error correction, but error mitigation is such a new technology in the science field that not many people really heard about it unless you're a scientist. But this error mitigation, again, it's not an error correction, and there's a limitation about it depending on your error rate. However, using this error mitigation technique, we will have a paper published soon, but it at least it can allow us to use full 127 qubit systems to simulate a simple materials a spin systems with a circuit depth of 60. So you can do some dynamic calculations up to some numbers of the time steps, 10, 15 time steps or so. That's the level that actually classical computer cannot simulate. So which, again, that result will be coming out soon. So again, we'd like to still try to work with a lot of industry partners to advance quantum computing together. I mean, I guess these two will be definitely the prime candidate here. And then, of course, we work a lot with the French industries. So we, again, went through different aspects of the current status of the quantum industries and where we are going. Do you guys have any questions to our panelists or myself that, or wanted to have any comments on where you are also? Like, I don't know, how many people are from the industry? Oh, yes. Actually, yeah, microphone would be great. Maybe your microphone can be a little closer to your mouth. Okay, yeah, just to, yeah.
Much better.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. My question is really for Sebastian. So could you explain what it is that you believe the quantum computing will add to your company as far as a production advantage, or what kind of technologies you think you can improve that most readily?
Sure. So yeah, there are two aspects, and in my opinion, of course, being a provider of semiconductor chips, we want to enter these emerging markets by providing components, modules, chips to quantum computers. So that's the hardware part. And there we leverage on our competencies. So we analyze the various technological approaches, assuming that the race is still going on for a few years until it crystallizes perhaps which one might be more advantageous. And there we have three different ones where we can make use of our unique competencies. So for ion trap-based quantum computers, it helps to have three-dimensional structures in order to capture the ions. And we have a lot of know-how in manufacturing MEMS-based chips with a lot of three-dimensional structures, so that's what we are making use there. On superconductors, the basic device which you use is a Josephson junction with a very thin tunneling barrier. We have a huge sensor business with magnetoresistive sensors. We have very specific manufacturing capabilities in order to do exactly that. Extremely thin, 1-2 nanometers of tunneling barrier across an 8-inch wafer with just a few percentage of variation. And that's what we're doing there. So that's what we are leveraging on the superconducting part. On the semiconductor part, what you use is not just standard silicon, but you use your silicon germanium structures with some metal gates in order to confine single electrons. And again, we have a radar technology where we have silicon germanium capabilities, a lot of know-how, manufacturing design know-how, and that's what we're using there. And then, of course, there's a lot of peripheral electronics where we can also make use of our RF competence. On the application side, being large corporate, of course, we also have a lot of problems, challenges, which could benefit from quantum computers. We are looking into optimization problems in supply chain, for example, but also increasingly into material science. Again, for the sensor business, we have gas sensors. You have a lot of materials which you want to evaluate whether it binds or gas binds to this, specifically to this material. Right now, it's a lot of trial and error. You choose by expert knowledge a certain material. You do a lot of tests. It takes a long time. And if you could simulate these binding reactions or get better understanding of the properties of the material by using a quantum computer, it would be extremely helpful. So that's different directions which we are going, both on the manufacturing or supplier side as well as on the application side.
Any other questions or comments that you want to contribute?
Can I ask you a question?
Oh,
what I was wondering, do you focus on a specific area more, so more on the hardware providing solutions or the service part in the future, or will it be continuum parallel at IBM?
I think, well, I guess so. We'd like to provide computing services, quantum computing services, and therefore the hardware is a key part, right, for the computing services. So, I mean, again, we developed the full stack of the quantum computer to do that. But I mean, I don't know what you mean by service part, like a business side, or because a service side also includes the making better software, so that you can, because it's not just the hardware, right? How fast you can run your workflow, and how easy to work with the computer. That's another part of the service. So they're like a full set of service metrics that we can evaluate, and definitely that's one of our major focus as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. So I think then we are going to do the next questions. Maybe I can start with Leigh. So what will be the challenge you feel to progress at this very moment, or in the next the few years?
So this is a list as well. So challenges, I mean, next 2 years, we know what our sort of research landscape looks like, so we know what we're going to be investigating. My particular interest is in the algorithmic integration of classical hybrid algorithms. And one of the things that when we're doing things to prepare this, whether it's the circuit or the decomposition of a matrix into unit areas, we're in danger of the classical complexity of those steps that we do to prepare a quantum algorithm are actually higher than the classical algorithm we're trying to replace. So at that point, it doesn't matter how fast the quantum computer goes, you're always going to be slower. And I think that's one of the reasons that we've got into this, is that we have expertise in this area because we've been doing it a long time, but it's a tough problem. Classical supercomputing has moved away from direct matrix inversion because it's expensive and it scales badly. So that's one thing. That's the main area. Again, the algorithmic integration. The other one I think is SPAM. State preparation and measurement, and certainly on the small cases that we're running today, the quantum the classical calculation will run and finished before the first shot of the quantum calculation has even loaded its data, the way we are today in some of the algorithms that we do. So again, and one of the things that we're particularly interested in is nonlinear PDEs, and therefore things that we do iteratively. So instead, we don't try and solve it in one go. We decompose it into a sequence of linear equations that we want to invert, and we iterate around and gradually improve that. And that gives you things that you can hang on to and try and exploit to reduce, do approximate state loading, do fewer shots, etc. And there's been people have talked about it at this conference in sort of, and I do see some overlap or some transition between the NISC sort of feature embedding and state loading, and then the measurement side of NISC. And so I think there will be some crossover point, which is one of the reasons for being interested in NISC. And again, there's this tension between what's fast on so if you're doing a tree loader, doing trees on classical supercomputers is trivial. It's really fast. But if you do a tree loader for a state preparation, it's an exponential depth circuit. So it's really fast on the classical computer, really slow on the quantum one. And there's that trade-off between what's best where. And so potentially you look at these things and say, gosh, that's a real barrier. But these are challenges to be resolved, not barriers to stop.
See. Is that just maybe my quick question to Leigh is so I feel like a Rolls-Royce technical depth is really deep, very, very advanced compared to even any other industries that I've seen. Is that a typical case in the UK, or
that's
just
very kind of you to say so? Yeah.
But do you feel that you are very advanced? I mean,
So I get this question a lot. So Rolls-Royce in lots of areas we fund lots of research, and a lot of it long term. And one of the things I quote in general, on average, with government help, we fund about 500 PhDs every year. So we're very well integrated with you. I mean, my whole career has been at the interface between academic research and industrial research, and then taking it through to production. So I often joke I've lived my career in the trough of disillusionment.
I see.
Or the valley of death.
I feel like it needs a really good scientist or R&D team within the industry that interfaces the academia that basically helps to adopt the quantum technology. I think that's probably the way to create a value.
Yeah, and I think COVID actually helped, because being at home, I sort of sat there thinking at the end of the day, what do I do now? So
That's a lot of science.
I just started programming. I thought, I quite like rigid fireman scripts. I can't truly understand what I can't do myself. So I started playing, and it grew from there.
Play quantum computing during the COVID. So one of the benefits. I see.
Yeah.
I see. Thank you. So Sebastian, what's your pressing challenge to adopt quantum computing to your company or to make progress in the next, or what do you identify as a challenge for next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah. So I won't focus on the application, as we already heard. So an expert view on that. On the hardware side, the typical challenge is, or what you usually do in semiconductors is we know very well how to scale things, right? There's a shrink path in semiconductors, and what you typically then accept is that most of device parameters are worsening, deteriorating with the shrink. A few of them are becoming better, but you can accept this because in a classical transistor, you have just 0 and 1, and every noise in between is rejected. So it's an extremely stable system which allows you to continue this path towards increasing the performance. On quantum, you can't do this. So whatever as noise or environmental changes are there, they affect the device performance. So this is a real big challenge for us in order to make progress on the hardware path. So you have to think about new approaches. Also interesting here to have some discussions. So there are some ideas, of course, everybody knows about this, Majorana, but also other ideas how to stabilize qubits, for example. But also from manufacturing design perspective, the requirements towards the hardware are extremely specific and in this respect much more demanding than for classical hardware. There's one path. On the development side, there's also a big challenge because what I need in order to make progress is the best experts which I have in the company. But I need really a lot of different areas of knowledge, not only on standard semiconductors, on quantum, but also on system integration, on design. So the best people, which of course there's a huge competition within the company that they do the standard development topics and not the classical, the quantum parts. So in order to motivate the company to stay in for the long run, which in my opinion we need, we have to overcome the next years until we really see the benefits and the on-take of the emerging market. That's also a big challenge, and I think there it's exactly the difficult way to find the right compromise between pointing towards the great potential, which I'm convinced of, that quantum has a real great potential, especially quantum computing, and at the other side, you're making sure that there's no overhype, so that the people are realistic in the company, that we need quite long-term investment there. We are used to that, so for example, this radar technology took from the first idea until the first product 7 years. So this is a typical time frame where semiconductor industry is used to. But for quantum, we really have to think a bit longer even. So that's a challenge in a stock market company like Infineon.
I see. I think the gap between existing experts to bring into quantum, like upskilling, is actually a big deal, you know. And then it's really tough to do. We experienced that, of course, at IBM too, right? Because we have a lot of experts there on computing. So that's a very, I mean, both of you really point out like a key points. Thank you so much for sharing. Any questions to our panelists also regarding the, immediate challenges or no? I guess so. Time passes fast. I'm only 10 minutes left, so I'm gonna skip
just 2 questions.
Yes, I know, just 2 questions. But maybe then, what do you see in next 10 years or 20 years? How the quantum industry and quantum business, quantum economy, what's your perspective? How they are gonna grow, and what will be? Do you have a vision for your company also in the long term? You can share. Whoever, Sebastian.
Do you want to start? So
no. Actually, I think I only have 9 minutes, so I want to hear from you guys first, and then then if I have time.
You go first this time.
Yeah, you go first.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course, 10 years is an extremely long time.
Or 20 years even.
But how I see the future is that we will need still revolutionary development step. So I see most of the technological platforms can scale up to a certain number of, or a certain performance, let's say roughly 10,000 qubits with a certain performance. But in order to really use them for industry relevant problems, we need another development step. But 10 years is an extremely long time, and I also see that the whole field attracts more and more extremely skilled people. So I'm very optimistic that there will be ideas and that we will overcome this challenge here. So in 10 years, my vision is that we have several quantum computing platforms which can provide business value. That Infineon will be part of these quantum computing.
Continue funding.
That's actually my vision, that we then have really a vibrant business and ecosystem in quantum, because we demonstrated that it's beneficial for, could be chemistry, could be optimization problems, could be something else we can't think of currently. Because also that we should neglect. So once you have this technology ready, that there will be a completely new field which you currently don't think of because you're always kind of caught in the past thinking. That's my vision for the next 10 years.
Do you feel it's harder to convince, the upper leadership to continue focusing on quantum, or you're good with it? Maybe you have your own funding, that enough money to focus on quantum, or do you have any internal?
Yeah, of course, you need some allies, right?
Within company.
What is always good is to look for the physicist in the board. Yeah, so
In the board, okay.
He or she is naturally attracted to quantum, and yeah, to give the right message that there is huge, or in my opinion, there's huge potential, but you have to be consistent and constantly working on that. Currently, I'm very optimistic that we did there a good job. So the board is in for the long run. That's what I get as a message, and yes, looking forward to it.
That's good. Okay, so Leigh.
Okay, so up until 5 minutes before this meeting, this section was blank. It's a tough one. Just some comments more than some predictions. Hopefully in 10 years' time, nobody will care about the fact it's a quantum device. People like me, it's just going to be a bigger, better, faster computer.
Yes.
That's all it will be. Yeah, we won't care. All of this fun that we're having with all the quantumness will just be, yeah, hey, do you guys remember some transistors sort of thing? Yeah, or punch cards. It's the economy, stupid. Yeah, the classic quote to Bill Clinton. All of this, it's interesting to watch people positioning themselves into how we're going to sell our first quantum computer. Is it going to be in the cloud? Is it going to be on-prem? At the end of the day, it's just economics. The business will buy it if it's
useful.
If it's useful. So, I mean, I've been through procurement, HPC procurement for the company. We have a combination of our on-premise and cloud, and the business case. Typically, you sort of keep it an asset. You keep it for 5 years if it's a high-performance computing. Probably similar for quantum device. You're going to spend X pounds on it. So you're going to get Y benefits, and Y better be bigger than X by a big amount. Typically 2 or 3. That's sort of return on investment. I mean, there are some crazy numbers on sort of ROIs for supercomputers. Double digits. We get more than 3, but it's not that high. And at that point, so today, if I use the typical sort of D-Wave benchmark of 15 million, I don't know what yours cost, but 15 million pound for a quantum device, we'd probably waste that 15 million. We wouldn't. We'd be lucky. We'd be lucky if we got 15 pound of benefit, to be honest. But so I think that some of this stuff, it's just going to be. Will it be commoditized by then? Probably not. I think we'll probably just be on the cusp of it actually making real impact. So there's 2 views. One, it will become a general purpose device. It will do Navier-Stokes. It will do all this sort of stuff, which is what we hope for, and which is why we're doing it. Or it's going to follow sort of Feynman's vision of it's a quantum device for modeling quantum systems, and everything else is a stretch, and you're sort of massaging your problem into it. So I don't know.
Let's
I'm
see.
optimistic. That's
Oh,
why I'm
that's-
here.
That's nice. I mean, it'll be nice to have, Rolls-Royce can probably have a system in-house or something, I see.
But yeah, that's just
It's another thing.
It's just
Yes,
economics.
economy, yes.
When the time comes, it will all be economics.
Of course. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess we have 4 minutes, but maybe I'll just share really quickly. The IBM's vision for the future in 10 years is the quantum-centric supercomputing, very similar to what Leigh was saying, and then also like Sebastian implied. We like to build a system that basically does a compute that's useful for you. So it'll be, we are visioning more like a QPU, quantum systems integrated with GPUs, CPUs, and that's how we, or any type of computing we basically integrate it such that it can run any algorithms to give you the meaningful computation. So that we already started, looking. We definitely engage with a lot of supply chain to build that system, and then also working on the workflow, system architecture, software packaging for that system is also very important to make it more useful. So again, if the computation is useful, they're gonna get into it. I think that's a really good message. And then also, I think we're very encouraged that you still have all your board members supporting the quantum technologies for the next 10 years. So thank you so much for sharing your opinions. Okay, so any questions or comments on what do you guys think about the next 10 years? Yep. Okay.
Go ahead and hold your hand up. Super.
Hi, Hanhee, and thank you for the talk. No, so you did not mention superconducting qubit in 10 years. Is it because you are open for other kind of qubit at IBM, or?
No, because I'm seeing, I resonate with what Leigh was saying. It's a computing machine, right? Like, again, platform, we definitely have to do platform research. And we don't have a clear winner. I personally think that superconducting qubit has a lot of advantages. There's a lot of reason that we continue superconducting qubits as our processor platform. However, at the end, to the users, doesn't matter. Has to be useful computing. And again, yeah. So I mean, that's the reason that I didn't really mention the platform specific. And then also we have a Sebastian there who can cover that area instead of me. But yeah. But I mean, if you're asking me in the 10 years, superconducting qubits, I'm not potentially, but I think ions and quantum dots are pretty good. So, but then in IBM, we will work on any platforms that's going to be useful. So, but right now we believe that that's a superconducting qubits. Any other questions? No.
Hi. Do you have an example of, for example, a concrete incoming or existing innovation you are expecting to solve whatever challenge, or to have a significant progression on what you are doing now? Do you have an example?
Is that
it's
me?
an open question. I don't know.
Okay, or to you guys. She's IBMer, so I cannot answer.
No, is the short answer, and that it's still very much at the research level for me. So, yeah, I'm optimistic that there will be. I mean, there's not much time. A lot of the promise with quantum computers is when you get access to this huge Hilbert space, which is over here. We're here today. We're limited up by emulators and the size of the machines, and there's a huge cavern in between. And how do we traverse that is a key issue. But potentially, yes. When we can get to the level that we can access that huge Hilbert space.